In the middle of the ocean, a cargo ship is being boarded by pirates and mercenaries. They take the crew hostage and plan to steal the cargo, unaware that a being with divine powers is approaching. He is Arthur Curry, the king of Atlantis and superhero known as Aquaman. Mounted on his seahorse, he boards the ship carrying Neptune's mighty trident and, one by one, takes out the criminals and saves the entire crew. This was another superhero adventure, narrated by Aquaman himself to his newborn son, Arthur Jr. Since Arthur discovered his origin and stopped his brother, Orm, from attacking the surface world, he has lived his days alternating between the duties of father, husband, hero and king. One morning, Arthur is relaxing in the garage with his father, Thomas, who advises him to give Junior a brother. Arthur isn't sure if this is a good idea, especially after the bad experience he had with Orm. The conversation continues until the two realize that Junior is communicating with the fish in the aquarium, which makes his father very proud. Arthur's life couldn't be better, but everything is about to change as an enemy from the past seeks revenge on Aquaman. He is David Kane, known as the Black Manta. Since his last confrontation with Arthur, David has had his armor destroyed, which has only increased his determination to eliminate Aquaman, considering him guilty of his father's perishment. To this end, the villain has financed an expedition to Antarctica in search of evidence of the Kingdom of Atlantis. Leading the expedition is Dr. Shin, who seems to have found something in a region covered by ice. Suddenly, the doctor and his assistant pick up a strong seismic energy coming from underground and the whole ground begins to give way. Fortunately, they both survive the fall, but the assistant suffers a leg injury from the impact. Shin then sets off a flare and explores the place, but his snowmobile also falls into the cave and begins to crack the ground. The crack reaches a wall where, on the other side, there is a gigantic monster. The creature uses its huge tentacles to break through the wall and capture Shin's assistant, taking him into the cave. Hours later, David arrives with the rest of the team and finds the doctor, still tormented by what happened to his colleague. Even so, David is only interested in the cave, and when he explores it, he finds a very deep lake. He and the rest of the team dive into the water and find huge structures built by an ancient civilization. As they explore the site, the monster reappears, revealing itself to be a gigantic kraken. The creature starts attacking all the divers, including David, who is thrown into the deepest part of the lake. There, he hears a mysterious voice, which seems to come from a trident broken in half. Without hesitation, David unites the two halves, thus summoning an entity that promises to give him the power to eliminate Aquaman and Atlantis once and for all. David accepts the offer and, after waking up out of the water with his team, he raises the trident and becomes its new bearer. 5 months after this event, Arthur is summoned by the Atlantis Council to an urgent meeting. Climate change caused by the pollution of the people on the surface has affected all the aquatic kingdoms and something needs to be done. Arthur suggests that Atlantis reveal itself to the world and share its technology to reverse the environmental damage. However, the council still follows old habits and prefers to remain anonymous and attack the surface world by surprise. The king of Atlantis has run out of options to solve this crisis, and everything is about to get worse thanks to David, who is getting closer and closer to his target. Now with his Black Manta armor rebuilt, the villain has discovered, through the magic of the trident, the existence of machines called Octobots. They have the shape of an octopus and are capable of exploring the aquatic realms, as well as having enormous firepower. However, in order to fuel them, they need to use a rare and dangerous type of fuel called orichalcum. Due to its high greenhouse gas emissions, orichalcum was kept secret by the Atlanteans and stored in secret warehouses. However, the Black Manta has stolen the stocks and is now heading for the largest of them all, located in Atlantis itself. With his submarine, the villain heads for the aquatic realm and pilots one of the Octobots, along with his cronies. Thanks to the machine's tentacles, they manage to break into the warehouse and collect dozens of reservoirs of orichalcum. However, just as they were about to flee, Atlantis' alarm is triggered and its warriors use laser cannons to stop the invaders. Despite their enormous firepower, they do no damage to the submarine due to their deflector shields. To make matters worse, Dr. Shin has been forced to build a new weapon, the sonic beam, and uses it to destroy the cannon and disable Atlantis' defenses. Thanks to this, they invade the city, but it doesn't take long for more Atlantean warriors to appear, led by Mera and Atlana, Arthur's mother. With her transporter, Atlana reaches one of orichalcum's shipments and uses her strength and speed to destroy the Octobots. Unfortunately, she is hit by a blast from the sonic beam, which knocks her unconscious. Mera then takes the lead and pursues the Octobot, piloted by Black Manta. In the middle of the city, the villain tries to lose her by destroying a gigantic ship, but Mera manages to dodge and invokes her magic to produce a whirlwind. With this unexpected attack, The Octobot spins out of control and is thrown against a wall, with Mera catching up with him soon after. The Queen of Atlantis tries to attack the Black Manta, but in response he fires a powerful beam from his mask, leaving Mera seriously injured. Not satisfied with this, the villain prepares to eliminate her with the trident, but is stopped by Aquaman, who strikes him with all his fury. Black Manta soon recovers and is ready to settle the score with his archenemy, until Shin warns him that the Atlantean army is approaching. Black Manta decides to retreat, but first, he uses the power of the trident to bring down a subway-like ship. Inside are several Atlanteans and, to prevent a tragedy, Aquaman gives up on facing his enemy and throws himself in front of the ship, making it fall safely to the ground. Afterwards, the hero tries to reach his enemy, but is also hit by the submarine's sonic ray and loses consciousness. Hours later, Aquaman recovers, but Atlantis has suffered serious damage from the Black Manta's attack, as well as having its stock of orichalcum stolen. As a result of this failure, the Council of Atlantis considers removing the king from office. However, Arthur is more concerned about his wife, who is recovering in hospital, and goes to his mother and grandfather, King Nerus, to think of a way to stop David Cain. They need to hurry, because every moment the villain uses the orichalcum, the environment is destroyed by the gases emitted. What's more, Arthur has witnessed the enormous power that Black Manta possesses and fears that he won't be able to stop him alone. Faced with this situation, he decides to resort to a drastic solution, asking for the help of his brother, Orm. However, he is imprisoned in the kingdom of the fishermen and, to avoid conflict with the council, Arthur will have to free him by stealth. Although the idea is dangerous, Nerus decides to help his grandson and provides him with a special suit with the ability to make him invisible. In addition, Atlantis sends an octopus called Topo to help him on his mission, as it has a malleable body and camouflage abilities. With everything ready, the two go to the fisherman's prison, where Orm is being tortured by the jailers. Topo manages to enter the tunnels and opens the cell door, freeing the passage for Aquaman, who uses his invisibility to eliminate the guards. After eliminating them all, Arthur goes to see his brother, who is weakened by the water shortage. Although the two still harbor grudges and resentment towards each other, Orm accepts his help and the two set off out of the prison. As they leave, the pair see the guards on their mounts, which look like giant insects. They quickly get rid of the guards and mount the creatures which, although aggressive, soon obey their commands. The brothers soon order them to head for the exit and, in a matter of seconds, the monsters scale the walls and destroy the ceiling with their crushing mouths. Finally, the two escape from the fisherman's kingdom, arriving in an inhospitable desert with the sea appearing on the horizon. They need to get to the water so that Orm can regain his powers and they can escape. Meanwhile, more guards appear with their mounts and one of them captures Aquaman, but he uses his invisibility again to face them more easily. As for Orm, he ends up losing his mount and is forced to walk towards the sea. Being very weak, he drags himself across the sand and the guards prepare to eliminate him, but soon afterwards, Orm is bathed by the waves of the sea and thanks to this, he manages to regain his strength. To the misfortune of the guard who tries to attack him, Orm grabs his spear and easily defeats the whole group. With this problem solved, Arthur takes Orm and Topo back to the sea and explains the whole crisis situation facing Atlantis. Upon learning of everything that has happened, Orm, now rejuvenated and with his powers restored, decides to take Arthur to the underwater citadel. This kingdom is known for inhabiting the scum of the seas, such as pirates and mercenaries, and is led by a creature known as the Fish King. Once there, the two are led into the creature's presence and Orm tries to bargain for David Cain's location. However, the Fish King won't accept this deal, so Arthur decides to get the answers in a more physical way. The King of Atlantis sets out to attack the Fish King's henchmen, who are no match for Aquaman's power. Finally, Arthur takes an oxygen mask, puts it on the Fish King and turns the crank, causing the water in the mask to get smaller and smaller. Unable to breathe, the Fish King confesses that David Cain is on an island where there is a volcano, known as the Devil's Mouth. With this information, Aquaman leaves the Fish King alive and sets off, along with Orm, towards the island. When they get there, the two notice that there is something strange about the landscape. The trees and animals are bigger and more violent than ever and Orm believes that this is an effect of orichalcum's emission. They soon prove this theory when giant carnivorous insects appear in front of them. Seeing how numerous the creatures are, Arthur and Orm flee through the forest, until they come across a huge cliff. Arthur suggests jumping into the water, but Orm sees a statue of an Atlantean king on the edge of the cliff, with the words "The true king builds bridges." His brother interprets this literally and jumps towards the statue, using his strength to try and knock it down. At first, it doesn't seem like a good idea, but soon the statue falls, becoming a bridge that leads to the other part of the island. While the two brothers cross the bridge and flee from the insects, next to the volcano is David's secret base, which he has turned into a furnace for the orichalcum. At that moment, Shin goes to give David updates on the fuel, but he doesn't find him in his room. Instead, the scientist sees the trident and, on impulse, joins its two halves, which gives him a glimpse of the evil entity that is controlling David. Speaking of him, the villain appears soon after and threatens to cut Shin's neck with his dagger. The scientist tries to convince him that the trident is controlling him, but David replies that he will continue to use its power until Aquaman and his kingdom are reduced to ashes. When night falls, Orm and Arthur continue to search for David's hideout, until they find one of his guards watching over the forest. The brothers easily defeat him and, following his tracks, they reach the secret base and make their way to the control room. From there, the two find out about orichalcum's furnace, which is emitting greenhouse gases through the volcano. Orm fears that this will lead to the destruction of the entire Earth's ecosystem and tries to think of a way to stop the process. Suddenly, Shin appears in front of them with a gun, but instead of attacking them, he promises to help them stop his boss's plans. The scientist warns Arthur that David is being controlled by an evil spirit inside a trident. Before he can give any more information, the door to the control room is blown up, causing Arthur and Orm to be thrown out of the window. Neither of them is hurt, but they soon find themselves surrounded by Black Manta mercenaries. Orm uses his ability to attack his enemies and even takes the laser gun from one of them. However, he soon finds himself in the sights of one of the mercenaries, who flies in using a jet propeller and fires her weapon at the former king of Atlantis. Seeing that his brother is in danger, Arthur throws a huge iron hook at the mercenary, who is thrown against the wall and explodes with his thruster. Despite this victory, Orm is now pursued by an Octobot, which proves resistant to his gunfire. Finally, the huge machine uses its tentacles against Orm and prepares to deliver the final blow. Once again, Arthur saves his brother at the last moment, using his strength to hold on to the octopod's iron tentacles. However, this has made him an easy target and he is grabbed by the huge machine, which attacks him mercilessly. Now it's Orm's turn to return the favor and, seeing a huge anchor attached to a chain, he throws it at the Octobot, trapping its tentacles and knocking it to the ground. The fight seems to have come to an end, but Black Manta finally reveals himself and challenges the two brothers to a confrontation till the end. Arthur and Orm accept the challenge and a violent fight breaks out, with the villain having the upper hand thanks to the power of the trident. He throws a kick that knocks Arthur away and then throws the trident at Orm, who manages to dodge it. Orm then tries to catch it, but when he touches the trident, he sees visions of the entity and a mysterious realm. These visions leave him bewildered and Black Manta takes advantage of this to hit him full on with his ray. At the same moment, the whole island begins to shake from the missiles fired by Nerus, who has come to save his grandchildren. Black Manta orders everyone to evacuate the area, but Arthur soon appears for a second round and throws himself with the villain to the bottom of the sea. Despite the hero's efforts, Black Manta sees his submarine leave and manages to catch up with it. Arthur tries to stop his escape but is once again hit by the sonic beam and buried by the island's rocks. The hero tries to remove them with his strength, but luckily for him, he is saved by the magic of Mera, who emerges fully healed from her injuries. With the battle over, Aquaman returns to Atlantis and meets with his family and friends to decide his next move. Orm reveals that when he touched the trident, he saw visions of Necrus, a place that was once part of Atlantis but is now known as the Lost Kingdom. Years ago, the brother of the former king Atlan, Kordax, became obsessed with the orichalcum, even though he knew how dangerous its use was. This led to resentment between the brothers, so Kordax used dark magic to create his trident and turn the people into monsters. He then waged war against Atlantis, but his brother was victorious and, as well as cutting Kordax's trident in half, turned his kingdom into an ice prison. This prison is located in Antarctica and, in order to free Kordax, the blood of Atlan's last descendant must be used to undo the spell. Orm deduces that the Black Manta is being controlled by Kordax and that he will soon come looking for the members of the royal bloodline. To Arthur and Mera's horror, they soon realize that their son, Arthur Jr., is the last descendant of Atlan and that the villain will go after him. As they feared, Black Manta appears at Arthur's house, attacks Thomas with his trident and takes the baby away. Minutes later, Aquaman arrives in time to save his father, but his son has been kidnapped by his greatest enemy. Now, the fate of Junior and the entire planet is in the hands of Aquaman and Orm who, at his mother's request, agrees to help his brother once again. However, they won't be fighting alone, as Mera, King Nerus and King Brine will follow them into battle. With everything ready, the group heads for Antarctica, where David has just arrived with his submarine and orders his men to destroy the ice mountains. They obey and fire missiles at the ice walls, creating a passage through which David and Shin pass with their Octobots. Shortly afterwards, Aquaman appears on the scene and uses Neptune's trident to summon sea creatures such as whales and sharks. They all obey the call and surround Black Manta's submarine and then emit magnetic waves against it. As a result, the submarine's electrical system overloads, imploding from the inside out and eliminating the villain's army. Meanwhile, David and Shin follow the Octobots and finally gain access to the Lost Kingdom, frozen by King Atlan. Aquaman and his allies follow soon after, but are stopped by Kordax's army of monsters, revived by the magic of the trident. With no time to lose, Aquaman sets off in search of Black Manta, leaving this confrontation to King Brine and his army. Shortly afterwards, the superhero, together with Orm, Mera and Nerus, cross the passage and reach a bridge that leads to Kordax's throne room. During the climb, the Kraken reappears and grabs Nerus' leg with one of its tentacles. The king begs for Orm's help, who at first seems to revert to his selfish instincts and refuses, but he soon sets off towards his grandfather and cuts off the monster's tentacle with his axe. The two finally reconcile and, after climbing the bridge, set off to help Arthur and Mera, who are searching for their son. Little do they know that the baby is being taken by the Black Manta to serve as a sacrifice in the magic that will free Kordax. The villain finally finds the throne of the former king and orders Shin to give him the baby. The scientist obeys and hands over the suitcase where Junior is, but when Black Manta picks it up, he realizes that instead of the boy, there's a bomb inside the suitcase, about to explode. At the last second, the villain manages to throw the bomb and escapes its blast radius, with Shin trying to run away from him, along with the baby. However, the scientist is stopped by Black Manta's electric rays, which seize the boy and place him before the throne to be sacrificed. At that moment, Junior uses his power to communicate with his father, who quickly runs to his son and throws the trident at the villain. The blow hits Black Manta's mask, but he proves to have enough strength to face Aquaman one last time. Finally, the two rivals engage in their final battle, unleashing quick blows at each other while looking for a loophole to finish off their opponent. Aquaman manages to find that gap and disarms Black Manta, but he counterattacks with his jet thruster and throws the superhero to the ground. Finally, he is about to pierce Aquaman with his trident, but Mera intervenes in the fight and throws him against the wall with her magic. The impact destroys Black Manta's mask, but he still gets back on his feet and throws the trident at Mera. The Queen of Atlantis is about to be eliminated, but fortunately, Orm appears at the last second and grabs the trident from the air. Despite his heroic act, Orm is once again seized by Kordax's power and becomes the new bearer of the trident. He then advances towards Aquaman, who tries to make his brother get rid of the possession. However, Kordax is too strong and uses Orm's body to throw Arthur towards the throne. Aquaman is then wounded by his own brother and his blood is used to activate blood magic. As a result, Kordax begins to be freed from his ice prison and the villain's return is now only a matter of time. Even so, Aquaman doesn't give up and once again stands before his brother to convince him to remember the moments they spent together. The memories free Orm from the curse and he hands the evil trident to Arthur. But it's too late and Kordax has managed to break free. The hero then throws the trident at the villain, but with his power, he manages to stop him in midair. Meanwhile, Orm throws Neptune's trident at Aquaman, who throws it towards Kordax, thus destroying the evil trident and finally, the cursed king himself. With Kordax eliminated, his magic is undone and the whole of the Lost Kingdom begins to crumble. David, who was injured on the ground, ends up falling over a cliff, but manages to hold on to the rocks. To his surprise, Arthur decides to offer his help and put an end to their rivalry, but David refuses and prefers to throw himself to his elimination. Finally, Aquaman, Orm and their companions manage to escape from the Lost Kingdom, which is now just a memory at the bottom of the sea. The aquatic world and the surface world have been saved thanks to the group, but Orm still has to answer for his crimes. In an act of gratitude, Arthur decides to keep his brother's whereabouts a secret until Atlantis Council can forgive him. Moved by this attitude, Orm thanks him and, before saying goodbye, gives him one last piece of advice that Arthur should lead the people of Atlantis in search of a better future. He accepts his advice and, days later, Arthur finally reveals the existence of Atlantis to the whole world. With this move, everyone will know that the aquatic kingdom and the surface world will work together to protect the Earth, under the leadership of a king and superhero, Aquaman. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.